Now, the government is set to hold a special parliamentary sitting to discuss the United States reciprocal tariffs on May 5th. As a prelude to this, we have Aira Azhari from Ideas with us to share her insights. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, Aira, what can we expect during this sitting, and what would be the hotly debated topics and discussions put forth, you think?
I think we can expect an update from Tengku Zafrul, who just returned from the US, fresh from discussions with the US Secretary of Commerce and the US Trade Representative, and perhaps from the Prime Minister as well, who will most likely share about the steps the government is taking to address this tariff issue. I think MPs will be most interested to know what steps are being taken to ensure the impact on specific industries. Will tariffs mean increased costs for goods and services for Malaysians? What are the cost pressures on SMEs, especially those in affected export sectors? This is really important because small businesses usually operate on thin profit margins. So any uptick in costs will have a significant impact on them. Investors will probably want to know about the unpredictability and the uncertainty, which will make it harder actually for foreign investors to take risks and to invest in the country. So they would like to know how will this affect our FDI attractiveness and our competitiveness as well. And also maybe our stance as the chairman of ASEAN. So our initial response was quite a commendable collective stance. But what's next? There's about half a year to go for our ASEAN chairmanship. So I think all of these issues will be brought up by the MPs and the ministers on Monday. Yeah.
Right, a lot to look forward to. You know, from Tengku Zafrul's trip to Washington just a couple of days ago, MITI has actually outlined its strategy to deal with US tariffs. But what does it entail, especially when it comes to reviewing certain industrial policies? Is there a specific sector or area that we need to look into?
So I think MITI's strategy in response to the US tariffs have been to focus on the broader goal, which is to manage the systemic uncertainty while at the same time safeguarding our export competitiveness and also our investment climate. The National Geo-Economic Command Center, the NGCC, which is MITI Stakeholder Task Force, has already been activated. I believe that the NGCC has already met. So this is a good early step in a longer-term recalibration of Malaysia's trade and industrial strategies. But we must remember that this is not simply about negotiating tariff relief, but also about adapting the broader trade architecture and signaling openness to reform. So MITI hasn't actually spelled out targeted sectors for reform, but they have mentioned several areas that have emerged as focal points. One of them is to reduce the bilateral trade deficit, and then addressing non-tariff barriers, strengthening technological safeguards and security, and also exploring the possibility of a bilateral trade agreement. I think Tengku Zafrul also brought up the issue of economic security as well. So yeah, I think in the field of agriculture, especially non-tariff barriers, has remained a concern. There are many procedures and measures that are quite complicated still in the agricultural sector, which maybe this is a good time for Malaysia to think about improving this. And also diversification versus dependency. So one of the issues is the trade surplus with the US, which has reduced to $25 billion over the years. But this trade surplus still makes us vulnerable to political pressure from the US. So, of course, there is an impulse to preserve market access, which is understandable. But we need to think about real resilience, which will come from export market diversification, enhanced free trade agreement utilization, and stronger regional integration. So I think here MITI is already taking the right steps. So they are actively pursuing new trade agreements. So the European Free Trade Agreement, the EFTA, will be signed early June, if I'm not mistaken. And also, you know, the opportunity to strengthen ASEAN cooperation is also really important. And lastly, I think while Malaysia has stated that we will not retaliate in terms of tariffs, the substance of these engagements are the one that matters. So the devil is in the detail, right? So negotiating exemptions or a technology safeguard agreement may offer tactical relief, but there are still deeper systemic issues such as restrictive ownership policies, sectoral protectionism, which will need addressing. And real concessions may require review of the long-standing industrial practices, particularly in services, agriculture, as I already mentioned, and also state-linked procurement. So strengthening domestic regulatory coherence is really important, and investing in sectors likely to face scrutiny. Yeah.
I mean, given the current situation, I think it's definitely timely for Malaysia to sort of assess and review back some of its policies and also its, trade relations. But with regards to this, Malaysia has remained very steadfast in its commitment to engage with the US and ensure continuous dialogue. So focusing on, like you said, improving trade imbalance, surplus deficit, and also strengthening ties. But a lot is still in the air. So do we expect any changes in our strategy and approach, especially after the seating on May 5th? Or can we anticipate anything that could affect Malaysia's future plans?
To some extent, it will depend on what the responses are from the other MPs on Monday. Tengku Zafrul has already kick-started the process of discussions, of engagements with the USTR, and he has mentioned that negotiations will start soon. I think there probably will not be a complete overhaul or a complete pivot away from our national priorities in terms of trade and investments. We already have some core frameworks in place, such as the National Industrial Master Plan, the National Semiconductor Strategy, and the NETR, which do provide a clear forward direction. But who knows, there may be adjustments in how Malaysia approaches sector-specific reforms, especially in sensitive areas such as agriculture and technology. The NIMP already focuses on addressing many of the right issues, such as supply chain gaps, industrial upgrading, and export diversification. The changes will likely be about how we implement these priorities more effectively. So I think after Monday, we will need to firstly pay attention to what the other MPs are going to bring up in Parliament. My sense is they will be concerned about how it will impact their constituents in the long run. But I also don't feel that the government is going to sort of move away or come up with a completely new strategy.
They're still going to stay on track to what they want to say. Right. Thank you so much, Aira. And May 5th is something we have to look forward to.